model of energy informational world that actually works. The reason why it works because it was tested in practice, and you might have heard that practice is the sole criteria for testing the truth. So with that in mind, and for those who are wondering, who am I to talk about all of this, and what sources I use and why am I have a right to talk to you about this? Just give it a chance and look at it, and if it resonates with you, great. If it's not, it's your own choice. But keep in mind that all of these things are tested in practice, and they do really work. I mean, I used them myself. I know many people who did, and it did help in many different situations in life, and it really does help and improves whatever you do in your life. To be if you're a film director, if you're you're in a business, or just a doctor or anyone. So a lot of these things actually really do work, and they really do help. So what is energy informational world? We all live in the process of information going down into energy and then to the matter. Basically, the relationship of a matter to energy is the frequency relationship. I mean, matter has a lower frequency than energy, and information has a higher frequency than energy. So all that around us is information, and the main reason why we call it information is because all that information is really released right now to everyone who wants to use it, and we can now see it in practice. By using internet, for example. Internet is a very good example of it's a very good model of energy informational world. You can literally find anything you want, and you can do whatever you want with this information. You just really need to know how to be able to find this information, and how to tune yourself to that information. And a very important thing that I would like to talk about is that the truth and the belief, when they go together, that's where you get knowledge. And knowledge is something that you can relate to, something you can actually experience, and something that you can use in your life. You can get results from it. So by believing in something, you not necessarily will get the results. You actually not necessarily might believe in some illusion, and then with time you just some things happen and you break this illusion, and you basically become disillusioned from what happened. When your belief coincides with the truth, then you get the real knowledge, and that's when you can use those experiences and that knowledge for your own benefit. Then you can continue search for the truth. Another very important thing to remember is that truth is not something absolute. Everyone has their own truth, and you eventually, through visualization techniques and through your life experience, you will get the ideas of why everybody has their own truth and why you should respect that just for your own benefit. Here's the model that I would like to touch upon a little bit. It's the model of evolution of I can say our planet, or any the steps of evolution that you can see. First, when the Big Bang theory and the whole Big Bang thing happened, and the planet was born, we all got elements. I mean, you can look in the periodical table to see what elements got first, and there's actually right now more information about the periodical table, and that information actually says that some elements were left behind, like ether. It was actually even before the uran, I think that was the first element. And those elements basically created the matter. and they were non-living and they had no intellect. I mean, you can argue with about the non-intellect, but they didn't have their own intellect. They were and they had no really life. They have energy, but they're not exactly living. Then with further evolution, our planet encountered the animals and plants, flora and fauna, and they were living, but they really didn't have their own intellect. I mean, you can say that all of them are governed by the group intellects that the species that they hold, but they're not independent in doing so. That's why it was the next step of the evolution when something would be living but without an intellect, without ability to independently function. It was the whole system of this basically a food chain of who eats who to get to the next to evolve and to live further, to survive. The next step in evolution was pretty much us humans, and we have intellect and we are living beings. And throughout the last years, centuries, the whole humanity was evolving from one step to the other, and it's actually another very big topic on evolution of humanity, and it's really it can describe very well using the chakra system, and we will touch a little bit about it later on. So just when we go into chakras and what kind of chakras, what are their functions, and how can you find ways to communicate with them. So the next level of evolution, which we're kind of right now on the verge of being humans and actually learning about energy informational world, is the energy informational beings and energy informational world, which do have intellect and they're non-living, meaning that they're basically above matter. They're not living as to don't have their physical bodies, but they do exist, but they just exist on the higher levels of on the higher planes of existence. And for us to understand and grasp those ideas, we just need to tune our brain to do so. And we will cover that as well, and we talk more about it on our webinar. Okay, here you see basically a picture of human brain waves. Our brain, or human brain, works as a very complicated radar system. We can perceive information from cosmos, from outside, from external environment. Our brain transforms it further into energy, and this energy, protects us after. And we'll go through the steps of how it happens. The main idea to keep in mind is that the reason why many people believe, and many scientists believe, and they prove it as a fact, that human brain, people use their brains only for up to 10% of its capacity. That's because most of the things that our brain actually works with has not been kind of discovered yet. The same concept as electricity existed 300 or 400 years ago. Nobody just found a way to explain how it works. The same with energy informational world. Until someone finds the model and the way or theory to how to explain how things work, then it will be able to people will be able to understand and use it. The same way, a long time ago, everybody thought that our planet is flat, and right now we all think it was a pretty dumb idea. But if you really think about it and try it, if you go into the field and just look around you, it looks flat, and there's on that level it was a good idea. You thought that it was flat, and so you tried to explain how things work, and you accepted this model. When people start to evolve further, they found this model does not exactly work doesn't work anymore. There's a better model, and people come up with ideas that our planet is actually round, like a sphere, and many people died because of those ideas. But eventually, everybody accepted that. And one very important thing to remember is that any new knowledge comes uh, not from people changing their worldview, not from the scientists changing their worldview and reteaching themselves. It comes from the old paradigm. It comes when the old paradigm dies and the new paradigm is accepted and grows evolutionally. So nature evolves, and people sometimes, other than revolutionize. Revolutions are something that humans make, because nature does things step by step, in an evolution spiral. When people are used to things, or they want things to change rapidly and quickly. I mean, the same thing kind of happened in last year in the 2012 thing. I mean, everybody thought that on the 21st of December it's all going to go boom, or well, we're all going to get enlightened, or we'll get all these super abilities or whatever. However, nobody really thought that for us, one day is it's a one day in 1 second. If you go deeper or go further into space, that's not even a time. I mean, there is no time. I mean, if you go to a different level. So the whole planetary alignment thing is happening, and the date of 21st December 2012 was the date of the peak of that planetary alignment, because the whole change into the golden age started in 1986 or so, and will go on until a few more years ahead. So this event on a cosmic level, yes, it's a 1 second on a cosmic level, but for us it could be like 30, 40, or 50 years. So it's a very important thing to remember, that we understand time differently than entities on the higher plane. So it's another way to understand why it's kind of hard, or why is it difficult for us to find the ways to communicate with them, because we do tend to have different types of models on how to do things. And this model that we're going to talk about actually offers a very interesting the way that makes sense of how things work, and will actually allow you to perhaps even get some answers that you were always wondering about how things work. So before we go any further, I would like to show you a little cartoon. It's actually from TED educational series. And it talks about how farming is related to internet. It's an interesting concept, and it also talks about some paradigm shifting. So let's just watch it, and then I'll talk more about it.
We talk about inventions and innovation as though the best things out there are the internet, iPads, or smartphones, or perhaps more simply, trains, planes, and automobiles. Which one is the most important? The best or the greatest? Which one has had the most impact on society? Today, the debate would probably be in favor of computer technology. But is it? Well, some would say nope, not really, it's farming. Where would we be if we didn't have it? Give up? We would still be hunting and gathering with little time to invent anything, let alone the internet. That's right, farming is the seed of civilization. Not quite literally, But without early man's discovery of using seeds to grow grain, we wouldn't have much of anything we have today. Growing your own food changed everything. Sure, hunting and gathering worked just fine for tens of thousands of years, but you couldn't do much else. No time. But when hunters and gatherers started planting seeds, they began to farm. With farming came animals, and with animals came settling down and staying in one location. So how does this have anything to do with invention and innovation? Everything. Anyone who's ever farmed, even if it's planting a half-dozen tomato plants in your backyard, knows that you usually harvest way more than you could possibly eat. A surplus. Farming yielded plenty of food, with enough to store, trade, and eat. In other words, not everyone needed to be farmers. Therefore, this allowed other people, non-farmers, to do other things, such as make tools, craft pottery, and build homes. Farming and food surpluses led to the division of labor. This is still thousands of years ago, so life wasn't easy. But with so many people contributing to the community, small villages began to develop. As the population of villages expanded, so did the needs of the people. Things got complicated. But civilization is just that, advanced complex societies. And without farming, they would not exist. Villages increased in size, eventually becoming the first cities. Cities are just one of the basic features of a civilization. The others include central government, system of writing, organized religion, art and architecture, urban planning of roads, bridges, and public works, social classes, and different jobs. Developing expertise in various types of occupations allowed for innovative ways of doing things, producing new products, or making advancements in technology. As civilizations became more complex, new ways of doing things were needed. Some were out of necessity, others because people had ideas. The sharing of ideas and technology led to the growth of things we readily use today, like the internet. So without farming, we'd still be hunting and gathering, no video, no computers, and certainly no World Wide Web.
One thing that I wanted to touch about this little video is the main thing is really correct, is to the farming led to to people develop, and the whole evolution process was people were just walking around forest, gathering, hunting, then finally they had farming. As you saw in the video, they had free time to do some other stuff. With that, they after they were able to find the effective ways to do it, they moved to the cities, and that was the Industrial Revolution. That's when the idea of cities and people working in the working class actually really appeared, because before that, before the Industrial Revolution, it was not a huge thing. Now, well, for the last, I don't know, say 40 to 30 years or so, I mean, everything is changing so rapidly. Everything is so fast, so quick, and you literally, if you ask your grandparents or your parents, for example, you'll literally see the difference of how fast our life is, the information of life is right now. The parents, they lived their life working for one company for like 70 years. Literally all of their life. They were married to one person, or they only been to 1 or 2, 3 countries. Now, if you're not traveling around the world, if you're not, engaging in all different, with all different people, and if you're not doing all these kind of things, you're not really, living in the informational world. And the access to all the information is also, it's mind-blowing. People, can do whatever they want. They can do it for free. All that it requires is their desire to do it and their will to do it. And the only main idea is to make sure that this is it's related to your mission. It's related to what you want to do with your life, because many things, and I mean, I personally have nothing against like the film The Secret or The Law of Attraction, but a lot of people, when they watch similar films or watch, I mean, I'll go take similar courses, they believe that uh, that's pretty much what they need to do. They need to wish, and everything will happen. The manifestation technique, affirmation techniques, or meditations, everything. The problem, I mean, the issue with that is they uh, they try to do it without really knowing what they need to be happy, because the information on what makes you happy is on the higher planes. And to access this information, you really need to synchronize. I mean, you need to put your bodies of on the higher planes into harmony with literally the mission of your life, with the purpose of your life that you're having. And we will touch. I mean, I hope we'll have time to go over the higher planes and which what plane is the functions of each plane and what you should do and to understand the whole concept. But people try to uh, find, I mean, they wish for the things that not necessarily will bring them happiness. Um, I mean, people wish for, their partners, or they want to keep their partners. They're wishing for the money or, the house, the cars, and everything. When in reality, uh, all they really need to be happy is, like a guitar, if they want to be a guitar player. And with that, they will be able to earn, the money, the car, and they have the partner in life. But that's the sequence that they should be going in, not the other way around. And um, the whole law of attraction does work, but a lot of times people are too broad on their ideas and they expect too much to happen without really doing anything. That's first thing. The other thing is they are not trying to figure out what they really need, and they just wish for the things that everybody else thinks are good, but in reality they might be bad for you. Another very important thing, no matter how good visualization technique or how good your meditation or affirmation or the manifestation technique, there are higher forces that still guide you, and they actually have a rule of thumb as to what you will get right now. So if you really want the partner right now, I mean, you want, to find the love of your life within a year, there are techniques to do it. I mean, we have some techniques that can help you with that. But the main thing is that that's not necessarily what you need to be doing during this year of your life. Maybe you should spend this year to study something so you can, evolve later on. And then when you reach that point, your partner, your real partner, what you want, which you want, will come to you, or your dream job, or or anything else. So a lot of times people go too much ahead without really, without really thinking what they're really wishing for. Another thing is what I want to talk about is visualizations themselves. And we had some questions as to how visualization techniques work, how to improve your visualizations. The first and the easiest step to do it is to be a kid, to do the visualizations, and bringing out your inner child, just because in that state you can perceive a lot more information, and in that state you actually have your right hemisphere activated, that works much faster than your left hemisphere, because your right hemisphere can literally work with 10 in the ninth power of units of information per second, when your left hemisphere can only process around 16 units of information per second. That's why, I mean, a lot of creative people are considered to be like crazy, and like psychics or people with extraordinary abilities. They're like, what are they seeing? That's not true. because they actually are able to, to get to that information. They're able to to access this information and do something about it. When people who are, have more, they have their left brain active in most cases. Uh, they're kind of too slow. They use their logic too much, and there is no a better way to do it, because we actually do need both. The only thing is that right now uh, we need to use both on a different level for us to survive, for us to be successful in what we do. And for that, we do need to develop our right brain to access more information, and we have to also develop our left brain to be able to filter all that information that the right hemisphere can access to us. With visualization techniques, that's possible. And in reality, actually, visualization techniques is the universal language. I mean, images themselves is a universal language. I mean, I tried it myself. I think it was in Thailand, and I mean, they know English, but they don't. Most of them don't know really Russian. And the advice was, I mean, what I tried was ordering something in a restaurant in Russian, but just visualizing it. I mean, just to having the image in my head to do it. And the waiter would come up to you and he goes like, what do you want? You tell them in Russian. They're like, okay. They didn't even ask me to, or try to, put it in the menu. And they actually brought what I was looking for. And that was like really a surprising thing. And I tried it in many different places. And that's actually the way it really works. And when you even talk to people, and when you want to get your ideas across, when you visualize things, when you try to get these ideas as image across, you will get much better chances to get this information across them, so they will actually understand you better. And that's actually the principle of how visualization techniques actually work. They are based on your ability to visualize the images, the suggested images, and those images that we will talk about them today are again based on the research and on the practice that's been done for the years. And I found the proof that a lot of these visualization techniques work. I mean, you can take Silva method as a very good example of ways on how to use visualization techniques, and it's a very popular method around the world. However, it's quite basic because pretty much, but it's very good. It's a very good start to if you have problems or you have trouble with visualizing. It's a very good start. It's to the Silva method. One other good thing to do is to improve your skills in visualization techniques is to train yourself in all kinds of arts. You can start painting, writing, playing music, or any types of things that help you to bring out your creativity. Because and if you say like, well, I never painted, I never play music, I have a bad voice or anything. The truth is, everyone can actually do it. We all have a certain potential in what the things to be doing. But when it comes to things like art and creativity, we all pretty much have that in us. The problem is, in our childhood somewhere, we got stopped in doing those things. But if we use our will to start and do those things again, we will actually be able to reach very good some results, and we will help to bring out our creativity. And I have many good examples of how people even like today just by following their intuition, doing many things. I have a friend. She's a head of a TV channel, and just recently I found out that she began making these little toy sheep, for decorations and stuff. And like, wow, she's like, I just had these ideas and I had to do it. And many people just do that intuitively, while many people say, oh no, I can't do that, I can't draw, I can't write. But the sooner you start, the sooner you will learn. And one of the laws of nature in doing things And one of those natures that you should remember is that quantity eventually shifts into quality. So you can't really, I mean, the talent is there, but even, like Mozart or Van Gogh or, many other, great geniuses of art, they didn't just woke up and started to write music or paint or play music, or, do other arts just immediately. They spent a lot of time uh, of their life just training that skill. The only big difference is they they invested a lot of emotions and a lot of interest in doing that. And again, most likely it was under the limits of their mission. So they got support, or energy support and inspiration from above, from higher planes to do those things. And of course, uh, a lot of people with great talent have a very difficult life, but there are also ways to explain why is that, why is that happening to them. And I mean, the simplest way to explain it is, there's a saying that a big ship needs needs a big hit. In order to sink a big ship, you need to have a big hole in it. So in many cases, people with big potential, uh, for their spirit, and we will talk more about it later, for their spirit to ground, I mean, to be able to stay on the planet Earth, their spirit has to experience a lot of uh, material problems. A lot of grounding has to be done, because a lot of hardships have to go through just for their body to be alive. That before we start going into, one other thing I wanted to say about it is that things that we consider right now, I mean, I touched a little bit before, things that we consider now to be magic, like psychic abilities and all these other things, uh, will be magic again until a scientist can actually find a theory to explain how it actually works. And there are many theories that how this works, and one of those theories, you'll hear about them today. And once again, the since it was tested in practice and it actually worked and it makes perfect sense, I would, and you might even feel, if you do some techniques that we will suggest you today, might even feel some reactions on your body. So that would also be, a good sign that it actually works. And once again, if it resonates with you, just just go ahead and dig into our website or to other materials that we'll be posting for, I don't know, for a long time. So okay, we'll start with another. Let me see. Okay, yeah, we'll start with. We'll continue. We'll continue with another fun little video so you can kind of see the scale of the universe. There's little really neat website that I found that basically has this thing on the scale of the universe, and it's kind of really neat. So you can just watch it, and then we'll talk more about it later after we're done watching it. hope you enjoy that. I found it really neat video, and it really shows quite well the size of us. I mean, as humans, and how the universe, how everything works. So exaggerating our presence is as possible. Many people do it, but if we really understand and really embrace this, the scale of what's happening around us, and take time to find the ways to really communicate and cooperate with the higher planes and with our world, um, our life will get better. We'll have a much more interesting life. We'll have a lot more events happening to us. We'll be effective in little things we do, and actually simply because we are following the mission that we were here to do. And we're being happy about it. And so next you will see how our brain works and how everything comes into place. So most people have a brain, as you know, and you can see that the field surrounding our head or in our brain, the electricity that goes on around it, the information that flows around our head and our brain allows our brain waves to direct their attention to certain things and to receive so-called informational solitons. Those are the packages of information that our brain receives, then to transform this information into energy, which the energy then later on will be transformed into the physical, into the matter. That's why any problem on the informational level will eventually have a physical result, unless, of course, you are communicating on the informational level with your higher bodies. Then you can actually receive warnings on the things like sicknesses, on accidents that might happen in your life, and those are the people with extrasensory abilities. They're the people who have a brain that is able to do it, and that's pretty much about it. There are people with more talent to do that, and people with less talent to do it, just because of what their mission is. What is the purpose of their life here? So we receive these information solitons, and our brain receives these information solitons. It transforms them into energy, and they go through certain the brain zones, and there's a lot of scientific research about it, and you might already heard that, know that our brain has certain zones which are responsible for certain functions of our body, or for work of certain organs in our body. And so these solitons are directed to certain areas of our brain, and then it goes through the biologically active points in our body. This energy that is being transferred, we get information, we receive energy, then it's transformed, it goes through our body, outside of our body in a way, the electric waves, and they connect our body through biologically active points. And these are the points that are used in acupuncture, in techniques like EFT, and many other ways that can be used. Because if there is a clogging over certain biologically active points, you can unclog it literally by tapping, or needles or energy with it. And that process itself, information energy, creates our energy shell, and in a way our human chakras as well, because the junctions of those energy flows create our energy centers or chakras. I will talk more about chakras in a little bit. So, so how does our brain really works, right? Uh, as after you saw the scale, and if you're interested, let us know, and we'll send you another very interesting video. I think it was done by, I think it was either Discovery Channel or BBC. It was the video about fractals. And if you haven't heard about the fractals themselves, I would suggest even just typing it on YouTube and find out what they are and how they work. It's a very I mean, it's a universal idea. It's the math and nature, and they are everywhere. And even understanding the concept of fractals actually help you to understand the relationship between human, God, nature, and molecules and everything around us. You have to look at it on from a different angle. So, with that said, our brain, in a way, is it's structured. You can see it here on the picture. It's very similar to what an atom and electrons are. So, and basically our brain has its orbitals, and that's the way it interacts with the surrounding environment. So these little solitons are being picked up by the orbitals of the brain activity, and so they basically create that energy that we just talked about. There are three major orbitals of the human brain activity. We have a biological component of the orbital of the brain activity, which is our front lobe. We have social components, which is just above our ears. Those are like orbitals right here. And then we have a spiritual or creative brain activity orbital, which is vertical. And we will use the term vertical brain activity or verticalize yourself later on, just so you know what it basically means to be in a vertical brain activity position is to be present. Well, as it's very popular to say now, is to be in the now, but it also means to have a connection with your higher self, to be connected with the higher planes. And a very interesting thing about our vertical orbitals is that if right here at where the sort of zero is supposed to be on our graph, that's where our brain is. So what happens is this the upper petal of the orbital is basically comes from our seventh chakra and goes up as the orbital to catch all these informational solitons. The bottom petal of the orbital is our spine, and that's what makes it quite interesting, because that's pretty much what happens with the human body. I mean, we read the information, and then our body sort of moves in those directions and those things that we have to do. Some of you might be thinking that that means that everything is determined, and we just these little transformers of information into energy and then into matter. In a way, yes, but there's also a concept of free will, and we all do have a free will. The only big thing is that we have a free will in the limits of the mission of our spirit, because if we exceed those limits, that's when all these bad things started to happen to us. We get sick, we get troubles in our work, yada yada yada. I mean, all these real bad things starts to happen to us. And that's another thing. Is that you have a free will to do it. I mean, if you don't want to follow your mission, if you don't want to realize these goals that the experiences, and literally to be happy in your life, then it's okay. You have a free will not to be happy. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. But if you are in those limits, and we will talk about those limits, and we'll talk about the laws of nature that actually govern those limits. And there are very interesting ways to to know what is your mission, to find out what are your potential, and to develop. But yeah, but the process of developing those potential will be your own. You have to use your own will. You have to do it yourself. That's coming back again to the script doctor idea. What we can help you with is to give you the tools, give you the visualization techniques, give you the advice to help you on the way on problems in life, health problems, or just the questions that you have. And trust me, even if we might not know the answer right now, I'm pretty sure that we will very soon. We just direct ourselves to that question, and positive that we'll find that the answer that actually really work. So you're very welcome to ask questions that you want, and we'll do our best to answer them. However, if a person if someone gave a person, if the person received the consultation, the visualization techniques, the advice, and we're not holding anyone, or we're not trying to basically to get everybody paid for that. But those services will cost money, of course, because that's money and energy. Not a big huge 2-day seminar, or at least to talk about those things. But if that person comes back once again with the same problem, maybe up to 3 times we will be able to help that person. Otherwise, we would just have to say sorry, we cannot do anything for that person, because if you're not evolving, if you're not learning things and doing those, there's really nothing we can do. It's the same as some reason people believe that when they go to doctor, the doctor subscribes them something, they have to take those pills. Each suggests that you should be taking those pills for you to get better. And again, with all the information that you have, you can go online, type in whatever the diagnosis you had, and see, and maybe it was something wrong. Maybe he did a mistake. You ask a second opinion, you could go to a different doctor, but you have your own responsibility to do those things. And the concept of responsibility, if you evolve that concept as well, further down to everywhere in your life, to how you spend your time, how you work, are you realizing your creative potential? How much time is you're invested in all of that? And again, there are laws of nature that can help you to figure out all these things. So coming back to our orbitals, with the time, direction flow of time, I guess the other way. Yeah, I guess this way. Yeah, that would be correct. This way. As you can see on the picture, and I was just to try to I'll tell you more about this concept. It's a hard concept to understand, but the reality is the human body, human brain is moving in time. It's moving backwards. So literally, we are seeing future with the back of our head, because everything we see is already past. And everything we see, it's like the screenshots. We have a screenshot. That's exactly why, because everything you can see is already happened. And there are the biological. Okay, and biological orbital of brain activity. It's right here. This one right here, and this one is right here, and all this model actually adapts quite well with all the other things, and it's not in any way. It's not this. It's another thing. It's just why it works. It doesn't go against any religion. It doesn't go against any belief. It just explains how things work, and this explanation, this model, allows for the visualization techniques to be a lot more precise, to be like a sniper shot. You can direct your attention exactly to the things, to the stress that you want to deal with, to the problems you want to deal with. However, you do need to find this way of communicating with your subconscious mind, with your higher self, and with your spirit. And that's where, you know, your own open-mindedness, your own willingness to try new things, and ability to use the right hemisphere comes into place. So this picture again, this kind of shows what I just talked about as to where how we're moving in cosmos. I mean, it's kind of tough to contemplate on this concept, but if you kind of ponder it, I mean, it will settle down. But just so you know it, I mean, you can believe it or not, it's fine. But the model, it kind of, again, it just makes sense. So our biological orbital, as I said, it's our lobe and the back of our head. These are the orbitals that basically manifest our body. This information that we receive from the field of the universe, from the external environment, all this information is all these little solitons get on those orbitals, and that's gets the the information then transformed into energy into our brain, then our brain transformed into energy throughout our body, and then our bodies form. So that's how, in a way, the human body is formed. I mean, the information about who our parents were, what kind of karma we're gonna have, and we'll touch on that later. What kind of events in our life, what kind of experience are we gonna have, or are we the or potential of those experiences? Because potential is a very interesting concept, because, and I think that's why a lot of people kind of misunderstand the astrology and numerology and many other things, because the potential, I mean, literally gives you the chance to realize yourself in those, kind of limits in a way. But it's your own choice and your own skills and everything that you know that helps you to realize those things. So the person with the same potential, I mean, the newborn with the same potential, I mean, exactly the same, could end up being, a surgeon, a killer, and the guy in the market who chops meat. I mean, they will have the same potential, because literally they're kind of doing the same thing. They are chopping meat. The surgeon cuts human bodies, the killer chops human bodies, but in a different way, and the guy who chops meat, who chops meat in the market. So the potential is the same, and they have the energy to do it. But how they realize this potential, that's a totally different thing, and it kind of depends on, where were they born, where was the mission, and everything, all these other things. And there are techniques, that can help you to figure that out as well. I'm not sure if you have read it. There's an article in our blog. I think there's a body of memory, karma correction technique, or something like that. But basically, it gives a basic description of what is the body of memory and what is the mental body, and how to work with it. So if you haven't done so, I mean, I encourage you to, even after we're done, to read that article. And that article, in the end of the article, you just signed up. It's for free. You get access to the visualization technique that you can do on your own, that would actually help you to correct the events of your life. I mean, it kind of sounds corny, but it will help you to relive those events, but in a more mature way. It will help you to kind of rewrite your past, and if it's done correctly, you're actually, you might even get younger. I mean, I know that happened to people, and the reason why, and I will just kind of use this right here, if you can. Okay, this is the line, and basically, so again, this is a span of time, right? So you're right here. Let's see, okay, you're right here, and you're living a life with a lot of worries. So I mean, like you're thinking about this too much, and basically your brain is it's constantly worrying and thinking and reliving those emotions and blah blah blah. So your brain is going like this all the time. You're going to the past, you're going to the future, and then you finally reach this point, right? Oh, it's gonna mess it up, but and what this technique does, it kind of helps you to I mean, it's not going to be exactly the straight line, but it kind of helps your brain to straighten that whole process. So you kind of that all that energy that you lost. So right here you were 1 year old. Right here you say, I don't know, say you're 40, but your brain lived the life of a 60-year-old. Just because you had all these experiences, all these words, all this crazy stuff. So, if you do this technique, it actually helps you to get all that energy back, and your body actually can even have reactions to that, as to it will regenerate, it will get younger, because the body, as we can see on this model, is living depending on the information that you receive. So that kind of explains why you would get, the rejuvenation experience. Now here we can see as our social. The social again. It's on your just above your ears, your social orbitals. It's kind of social. You mean like social orbitals? You want me to draw them as well? Or I guess I can just use this one right here. So the social orbitals are the ones that's how you interact. Okay. Yeah, one more thing about the questions. I mean, I love the questions, but a lot of times you would want to ask the question before I start talking about it, just because I'm about to start talking about. I mean, I'm just about to talk about it. You kind of, I mean, that's like you can predict future, really, just because, and that's true, because your mind is actually right now, if you're not listening, we're doing these things, and again, we're just starting. Your mind starts working kind of differently, and you kind of you constantly expecting these things. You kind of know these things are going to happen. One other thing that I think it was 2 days ago, I read this article about the guy who invented lobotomy. I mean, when they put this when they basically turn off certain areas of your brain. And it was kind of an very interesting article, because in his research, and again, I'm bad with names, I don't exactly remember his name, but I will, if remind me, I'll find it to you and I'll send it to you. His research showed that in the lobe area of human brain, there are brain zones that are responsible for, in a way, predicting the future. I mean, there'll be the expectations that you have. And those brain zones were also responsible for fear, because a lot of times, or most of the time, the reason why people fear something is because they don't know it or anything about it. And they create, their imagination creates such a scary illusion that that they basically wire themselves up and they begin to fear about it. But when it actually happens, I mean, it happened with all of us. I mean, you expect something bad to happen, and then you kind of go through it, and it's not that bad. I mean, even take me for example. I mean, I woke up today. I was like, oh, I'm gonna teach this webinar. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I was just like, why should I do this? And it's like, oh, maybe I should, because another technique is to actually know your fears, to pin them down so you know them. And a lot of times your fears will be they'll be perfect guide to the things that you actually should be doing, because your fear shows you where you should go, where you're not, and I mean, where you're an expert yet, or where where there's something new, but you have an interest when you have interest in. But there are different kinds of fear. So again, you should be able to, sort of work with them. That it doesn't mean that, you should, if you fear of heights, you should just, sky jump every day or something just so you get rid of it. No, but you might want to try it just once, just to be sure and to relax about it, or just not do it at all. Because some fears, I know, have their reasons. I mean, there are strong reasons behind them. And again, fear is a huge topic for a huge, for at least a 3 or 4 hour webinar. Fears are not exactly part of intuition. I mean, it's again, as I'm trying to say, it's a kind of complicated issue, but because again, fears are different, and one thing that I would suggest on how to work with your own fears is pick a situation that you fear, sort of categorize that fear. I mean, resonate with that fear, understand where this fear is coming from. Then you do it, and you see what kind of events happen on that way. I mean, this would actually allow you to know, was that fear what was a part of my intuition, or that wasn't a part of my intuition. And the way to test it, and the signs of how to test it, is literally, it's your body. I mean, as we talked right here, the information that is coming from from the informational field eventually goes through your spine. And so if you're literally choosing a wrong direction, if you're trying to force through your will, and you have that power with your force to force your will to do something, even if you fear it. But if it actually harms you, I mean, you begin to feel bad, I mean, that's a very good sign that actually you're not doing. I mean, that's not coming. It's not coming from your intuition, because remember that the information is coming not only from your higher self. It can come from your parents, your ex-sexual partners, your friends, your teachers, anyone. I mean, or there are even entities on their higher planes that can try to, get you to do something just because that's kind of the way this is the way that allows them to exist. If somebody's listening to them, or somebody's doing what they're saying, that's the only way that they can exist. Because if everybody stopped doing that, they would just disappear. And so with fears, see what your body is telling you, because your body is the best indicator if you're on the right way or not. Check your mood. I mean, if you're talking to this certain person, if you suddenly feel, your mood drops, you're feeling nausea, your solar plexus kind of, start to hurt, that now this person is most likely an energy vampire. And well, I guess we just can go ahead and talk about one of the easiest visualization techniques on how to protect yourself from energy vampire. So since we're talking about the fear, kind of led me to that topic. So yeah, if you meet someone who constantly wants your attention, I mean, or even if you are yourself acting like this, you're constantly trying to get this person or that person doing something, think about exactly what you're doing. Because if you're forcing your will out too much, maybe you're breaking basically certain rules or certain laws of nature. Because in any type of communication, both parties have to benefit. I mean, both parties have to receive benefit. Both parties have to benefit from any type of communication, because if one party doesn't really want that communication or that interaction, that's basically a rape. I mean, that's on the different level. I mean, it's on an energy level. That's how we would describe it. So with energy vampires, and I mean, I have a lot of different videos on how to disconnect from energy vampire, what are the techniques to use, and one thing to kind of, I think everyone has to understand or have to realize that